Okay, we're going to go into a polling question. And the first polling question is, Brittany, if you want to send out the signal for the polling question. Everybody's message goes off. What best describes the way you registered for the conference? Learn about or evaluate knowledge-aware engineering, to network with your peers, to see what others are doing in knowledge-aware engineering or Auros, for the free lunch. Don't deny it. Free lunches are important. Don't deny it. Or none of these. Just be honest. We'll give you 30 seconds here to make your decision. I'm not even going to venture a guess what the predominant answer is here, if there is one. Okay, let's see the results. To learn more about knowledge-aware engineering, that is awesome. I'm really glad to see that's the reason. And then second, with around, looks like about 27, 30 responses, is to see what others are doing, to network with my peers. One honest person with a free lunch, 2 or 3 free lunches. Okay, we're going to go ahead. Yesterday, those of you who are here, there's a few people that are new today. We went through an overview of what knowledge-aware engineering is. We started off with talking about the concept. We saw a few videos that provided, in the most succinct way possible, what the technique was about. And then we went ahead and we did the, what did we did the, no, we did the vignettes second, last, and in the middle we did the workshop, right? So we did the exercise, the interactive exercise. Oh. So the feedback on the exercise was positive. That was something new for us. We tried to see how that was going to work. Generally, the feedback was positive. I think it was a good tool for everybody to understand and put yourself in the position of how knowledge-aware engineering would interact with your industry. So hopefully that provided, for those of you who needed a frame of reference for what the presentations you're going to see today, and for those of you that kind of had the frame of reference, hopefully that provided you maybe some ideas on how to help onboard other customers or provide reasons and communicate the value of knowledge-aware engineering. And hopefully you had a little fun. So again, knowledge-aware engineering is about technical memory and putting knowledge in the flow of work. You know, I don't think we talked about it yesterday, but most companies are trying to do this without even knowing. How many people here have ever seen a lessons learned database? How many people have ever found a lessons learned database useful? Okay, that's pretty standard, right? And that the answer doesn't really shock anybody, right? Because lessons learned databases kind of leave that open bucket at the end of the rainbow, and hopefully people can find it. And like the end of the rainbow, nobody ever does. So why would you go add anything to the lessons learned? But the idea of lessons learned, people have invested in them. You all have seen the projects. Tells us that companies inherently understand the value of preserving knowledge. So this technique in putting knowledge in the flow of work is a powerful one. So, but there's more to it than that. I like to use this story. I'll try it out on you. If you have a small child and the small child approaches the stove and they see a red object and they touch the red object, the child then subsequently approaches the stove. They see that red object. Are they going to touch it? They won't, right? They've learned something, and they were able to recall something efficiently. And if the child's sibling approaches the same stove, no, Johnny, don't touch that stove. Through recall, they're able to help and instruct others. So while it doesn't happen through the same process, the promise of knowledge-aware engineering is this thing called efficient recall, effortless recall. The child is recalling the experience without effort and is able to prevent something that costs the child, in this case, pain. Now imagine at your own organizations, if you had this capability of effortless recall, and you experience stuff, and you're able to prevent the damage, or prevent a die tear-up, or prevent a wrong decision, or prevent something, right? The actual capability, if you were to believe you could have it, would be a valuable one, all right? So the knowledge-aware technique is about producing effortless recall. Now, how you go about it is obviously a lot more complicated, but that's what we're trying to emulate with knowledge-aware engineering. So with that in mind, here's the softball polling question for you. So let's put up the next question. How much do you agree or disagree, depending on how you answer, that the capability to learn, recall, and apply knowledge, to have effortless recall, how important is that? That it's super important. How critical is it to your future? Is that an important thing to the future of your company? Because it's coming. The capability is coming. The information technology, analytics, BI, and all that stuff are going to enable us to do it. So how critical is it to the future? Okay, now this one I will predict the answer to. So just a few more seconds for you to respond to the question. Okay, Brittany, can you show us the answers, please? Okay. And who the strongly disagree? Do they want to explain why they don't think it's critical? It wasn't you, Ron? Yeah, I think there are arguments to be made that it is an extremely important characteristic. You may not believe it's possible, but if you could have the ability to have efficient recall, it would be an extremely important tool of competition. Okay, so wrapping up, what are the specific attributes of a typical engineering business that you can achieve? Benefits that you can achieve with effortless recall, technical memory and effortless recall, knowledge and flow work. First one we see, and it'll be interesting to hear if any of the customers today talk about these things. So elimination of recurring mistakes. We have seen and measured the reduction of recurring mistakes through the use of knowledge-aware technique. Knowledge preservation and sharing. So one part of that is how can you collect more knowledge, more accurate, more up-to-date knowledge, and not have out-of-date knowledge, right? So that's about the preservation and sharing of knowledge. Improved engineering efficiencies. Not going through a design iteration because the mistake wasn't made is inherently going to improve design engineering efficiency. Reduction in undesirable process and product variation. Not as intuitive, but some of you, I know there's some global engineering managers present that probably have teams in multiple locations doing the same engineering job at very different processes. And there is a way to benefit and get best of both processes by using the knowledge-aware technique. And I like to put this one in because it's the most counterintuitive of all the benefits. If you ask any of the existing customers want to raise their hand and say that they have not experienced a reduction in IT footprint by using a tool set that is enterprise for this kind of technique. Reduction? Would you agree, Jeff? Yeah. So what generally happens is maybe we don't want to do knowledge-aware engineering because we're going to have some new IT tools. But the reality is that it is a net reduction because there's so many tools like your lessons learned database, like your tool for that standards process, like your SharePoint automation that you're doing for those specifications. Those all go into one system that now shares and tracks and traces across. And the net effect is actually an IT reduction. So it's counterintuitive, but it is an outcome. So that said, that's kind of the overview you saw yesterday, and you're going to see a lot more today. You know, in the Auros technology anyway, knowledge packets can capture all kinds of different kinds of knowledge. This is just the Auros version of them. And assessment controls, another primary component, allow us to embed into the flow of work different knowledge packets in different ways. And these are just some different assessment controls. You'll see more today. Okay, so with that, we're ready for customer presentations, and I'll ask my, any discussions, comments, questions to this point? Feel free, anybody? Okay, so yes. Okay. So automatic translation, the state of the art still isn't good enough. So we have been experimenting with that. We frequently bench test what we get out of like the Google Translator, and there's some paid for services you can use. Obviously with technical language, technical lexicons, we can kind of support it additionally on top of the translator, but we still don't think it's good enough. So best in breed right now, I think there's a couple customers that that allow data entry in multiple languages. So from a just a data management standpoint, there's no problem. And our semantic search engine works just fine with any language too. So that's kind of cool. So it's more of a pattern recognition thing, and it really doesn't matter about the language. So no automatic translations right now. I would imagine it will happen. Hard to predict exactly when we'll cross over to the point where it's good enough, but yeah. And I know some projects at companies that have been outside of knowledge-aware engineering have been experimenting with. Has anybody experimented with auto translation for specifications? Has anyone tried that, or lessons learned? I do know of some projects that have done it, and so far it hasn't been terribly favorable. Do you have a project? Have you tried it? Yeah. No. Yeah.